Welcome to This Explainer. You know, if you're a parent, you absolutely know that joy of watching your child's mind just work, right? You see their imagination going wild when they play, their curiosity when they're asking you a million questions about the world, and that amazing way they can just spin a story out loud. But then there's this paradox. Homework time rolls around, and suddenly that exact same bright, capable kid is just totally overwhelmed. Reading and writing seem incredibly, inexplicably hard. It literally feels like a wall has just popped out of nowhere, and you're probably sitting there quietly asking yourself, why?
You might be asking yourself a question that honestly so many parents wrestle with in total silence. If they're so smart, why is reading such a struggle? You're watching your child work so incredibly hard, yet the results just aren't matching their effort or their obvious intelligence. I really want to validate those silent worries right now. Because if this sounds familiar, please hear this. Your child is not lazy, and they are definitely not failing. What you might be seeing is simply a bright mind that just processes language a little differently.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this number, it completely changes everything. 1 in 5 students show signs of dyslexia, 20%. So if you've been feeling isolated, or if you or your kid have felt any kind of shame around these struggles, let this statistic just wash all that away. Your child is absolutely not alone in this. Dyslexia is incredibly common, and understanding how it actually presents is that crucial first step to unlocking your child's true potential.
Let's look at Section 1, Early Clues, Before School. Think back to when your child was first learning how to speak. I mean, we all love those adorable verbal mix-ups, right? Saying biscotti instead of spaghetti, or lawnmower for lawnmower. It's so cute. But if those mispronunciations stick around, or if there's a persistent use of baby talk well past the typical age, well, those can actually be early clues. Shifting gears to what's really happening beneath the surface here, it's not about their intelligence at all. It's actually a subtle sign about how their brain hears, processes, and separates the individual sounds that make up words. We also see these early clues show up in foundational tasks. On one side, we have rhyming games. If a kid has persistent trouble learning nursery rhymes or just doesn't seem to get simple rhyming patterns, like cat, bat, rat, that's a key signal. On the flip side, we have sequencing. Maybe they struggle to retell a story in the right order, or they just can't quite grab the right word they want to use when they're talking. These aren't just quirky little habits. They're actually pre-reading signals. They show us exactly how the brain is organizing language long before a child ever picks up a book. Moving on to Section 2, the school age gap.
And this brilliantly illustrates what is often the absolute most heartbreaking part for parents and kids alike, the school age gap. Think about oral expression. Your kid might be sharing these incredibly complex, brilliant ideas out loud. They can explain a concept to you perfectly. But their written expression? Oh, it's laborious. It's messy. The spelling is highly inconsistent, and what actually makes it onto the paper is so much weaker than the brilliant ideas you know for a fact are in their head. The mechanical act of just writing it down is taking up so much brain power that their actual ideas end up getting trapped.
And then, there's the reading itself. We expect kids to start sounding out words, right? Cat, map, top. But for a child with dyslexia, sounding out unfamiliar words is intensely frustrating, mainly because they might not even realize that words come apart into separate sounds. So what do? They actively compensate. You might start seeing some pretty wild guessing. Like, they might look at a page with an illustration of a dog, look right at the written word dog, and read it out loud as puppy. They're relying on context clues instead of actually decoding the letters. It's really just a brilliant workaround for a brain that isn't naturally wired for phonetic reading.
Section 3, Beyond the Classroom.
Now, you might actually start noticing everyday signals that seem completely 100% unrelated to reading or writing. For instance, does your child constantly confuse their left and right? Do they have a surprisingly hard time reading a traditional analog clock with the hands? What about their backpack or maybe their desk? Is it just chronically, overwhelmingly disorganized? Or maybe they have a really tough time remembering random lists, dates, or a quick sequence of instructions you literally just gave them. These non-academic signs are all part of that exact same underlying difference in how their brain organizes information.
Which brings us to Section 4, Patterns, Hope, and Intervention.
So the crucial point is understanding this concept of a cluster of checks. Look, every kid develops at their own pace. Checking off just one of these boxes absolutely does not mean a child has dyslexia. But if you're noticing a continuing pattern, a whole cluster of checks across speaking, reading, writing, and everyday life, well, that is a warning signal. It is not a diagnosis, and it is definitely not a verdict on your child's future. It's really just a sign that their brain learns a bit differently, and that having a professional conversation is the right next step. And here is exactly why that conversation is so incredibly important. 90% of at-risk readers can catch up when the right specialized instruction starts early. Literally 90%. Dyslexia isn't something a child is just doomed to struggle with endlessly. No way. When they are given support that actually matches how their specific brain is built to learn, they make incredible, deeply meaningful progress. It's a total game changer. However, we do have to gently contrast that immense hope with a very real, sobering statistic. 74% of struggling third-grade readers will actually stay behind into the ninth grade if they don't get specialized intervention. Waiting it out, just hoping it'll eventually click for them, that's a huge risk. Early detection and getting that right specialized support are the absolute keys to unlocking that 90% success rate we literally just talked about. Section 5. Taking the next step. Taking that step is surprisingly simple. Let's move to and see how this builds into a gentle, totally low-pressure plan. Step 1, talk to us. It's just a free consultation, a friendly conversation about the patterns you're seeing with zero pressure. Step 2, get clarity. A comprehensive dyslexia assessment is how you basically replace the exhaustion of guessing with the absolute power of knowing. Because once you know exactly how your child learns, you can finally give them the exact tools they need. The team at Reed Academy of Sacramento, which is led by founder and certified dyslexia therapist Dr. Leah Skinner, well, they are exactly the kind of empathetic experts who guide families through this process every single day. They are deeply dedicated to helping kids reach their full potential without losing any more precious time. If you've been checking several boxes today, you can reach out to them to just start that conversation. You can give them a call directly at 916-258-2080. I really want to leave you with this final inspiring thought. Think back to that incredibly bright, imaginative kid we talked about at the very beginning of this explainer. Imagine just removing that daily frustration of reading and writing for them. What could your child achieve? What could they build or create or become when they finally learn in the exact way their brilliant brain was built to understand? The potential there is literally limitless. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.